Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the 4-Star Chicago Sports Podcast. The Bears take a trip down to I-65 South to try and get back on the winning track. We break it down next. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this fine Wednesday evening. And yes, it is Wednesday, which means we're going to turn the page from this horrible game on Sunday and hopefully get a little bit better this Sunday. Before we get started, I want to say congratulations to Olin Kreutz, Lance Briggs, and Peanut Tillman on their nominations into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I believe all three should get in. What do you think, Kyle? I definitely think Peanut Tillman because he changed the position. People still use the peanut punch. I mean, that was revolutionary. Lance Briggs is just my guy and an awesome football player. And Olin Kreutz, man, it's tough for centers. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you, Sean. I mean, I think for sure Lance Briggs and Charles Tillman are slam dunks. I think the only one that's going to be kind of on the fence, a question mark, would be Olin Kreutz, and that's just because offensive linemen just aren't sexy, man. You know, it's just not when all the fans are watching these Hall of Fame inductees, nobody ever talks about the offensive linemen. But I do think that Lance Briggs and Charles Tillman get in this year for sure. I mean, especially Charles Tillman, the guy created a move that is still today called the Peanut Tillman punch, and probably will always be called that for the rest of the football existence.
I was going to say, cost me a touchdown. Travis Etienne got the peanut punch, knocked the ball out, going into the end zone. But we got
Sean,
the Bears.
You remember that? I think it was against Tennessee. Was it Tennessee, the Titans, where Tillman had, I think, 6 forced fumbles, but four of them were recovered by the Bears. But I mean, 6 fumbles in one game. That's insane, man. There's some teams who can't force 6 fumbles in half the season. Charles Tillman did it by himself.
So as we turn the page to the Indianapolis Colts, really quick on this rivalry, these two teams have met 44 times in their history, including once in the infamous Super Bowl that the Bears did not prevail in 29-17, but they do have a 2-game losing streak, one in Indianapolis, one in Chicago. Our last win was in Indianapolis in 2008 when Matty Franchise made his debut, and my friends, that hangs in my garage in my Bears den. That is his first touchdown. That was 2008, the last time the Chicago Bears beat the Indianapolis Colts. So as we draw here, the Colts, I'm so excited about this matchup because after going against 2 pretty formidable defensive lines, one with the 3 technique and the 1 technique that were just devastating, and then the 2 edges last week that just overwhelmed the Bears, it looks like we get a free pass. Do we say a free pass because our offensive line cannot block 5 guys, pick up a basic stunt, or stop a blitz? So going into this, Kyle, I'm going to ask you, knowing that the Colts were dead last in blitz percentage last year, they have the 8th fewest blitzes this year. They have 4 quarterback pressures, and 3 of them are from DeForest Buckner, who will not be playing in this football game. Give me your keys to winning this football game, my friend.
Well, I mean, first, Sean, let's look at how we got here. So right now the Bears are 1-1. We beat Tennessee by luck, let's be honest. I mean, it was a great game by the defense, but the Bears offense did not perform well. Probably the worst performing offense of week 1. The Bears still pulled out a win. And then they lost to the Texans in week 2. Now, I think both you and I predicted that the Bears would be 1-1 at this point in the season. We just didn't predict it to look like that. Like, that's not exactly
even though I predicted them to win last week. But
yes, but I mean, ultimately, we thought they would lose to the Texans. I thought it'd be more of I don't want to say shootout, but it'd be more of a back and forth kind of game. The Bears obviously could not move the ball. If there is a chance for the Bears to have a get-right game, I mean, this schedule is working out perfectly for them because this is it. I mean, not only are the Colts not good at rushing the quarterback, but they're not good at stopping the run either. And the Bears have had no success running the ball this year. This is a get-right game for the Bears. The Colts so far this season have allowed over 460 yards rushing in 2 games. The Packers alone last week ran for 261 yards. And that was with the Packers beat the Colts last week. I think Malik Willis threw what? Was it like 11 passes, Sean?
It was 12. Malik Willis was 12 for 14 last
So
week.
he completed 12 passes, and they still won the game. On top of that, like you said, Sean, the Colts are banged up. I mean, they have been devastated by injury. DeForest Buckner is probably the best player on their defensive line. He's out. They already lost Samson Ibukam for the season, the guy who had the most sacks for them last year. I mean, this should be basically like the Bears are. I don't want to, every team in the NFL belongs in the NFL, and they all have good players, and all these guys belong in the NFL, and they're all good players. But this is going to be, for me personally, the easiest game they have for a while. I mean, not to mention that the Colts weren't really a good roster to begin with. I really don't believe they're a very good team. But then you injure 2 or 3 or 4 of their best players, and man, now the question is, can the Bears' offensive line look better than it did last week? It doesn't have to be perfect, especially against a team. What I think we talked about it all offseason. The Bears' offensive line was never going to be perfect because none of us really liked the Coleman Shelton move. None of us liked Nate Davis, the way he wasn't practicing coming into the season, the fact that they had no continuity, they didn't practice together, and half of them didn't play in training camp. They've been shuffling people around left and right. I mean, we never thought it was going to be the best offensive line in football. But to beat a team in the NFL, whether it be the Indianapolis Colts or not, I don't care. You have to look better than you did last week. They cannot let every single free runner, free blitzer come in. Because for a fact, even though you said the Colts have blitzed the 6th least sixth most in the NFL, or 6th least in the NFL?
Eighth least in the blitzing in the team in the NFL, and they were the least last year.
Well, I can tell you this. This is going to be the game where the Colts blitz more than they've ever blitzed before, and they're going to blitz, and blitz again. I do think personally the Bears finally do get this thing right. I think their offensive line is going to look better. I think DeAndre Swift's going to have a good game for them this week. I think it's almost impossible not to. I mean, if the Colts knew with Malik Willis a quarterback back last week that the Packers were going to run the ball, and they still gave up 260 yards rushing. The Packers were basically like, hey, we're going to run it down the middle. You guys stop us. And they couldn't do it. So I think I would like to see Roschon Johnson there because I think Roschon Johnson is a better power runner than DeAndre Swift. And right now the Bears offensive line is not moving anybody. So maybe Roschon Johnson could push him up a few yards. As long as the Bears could just average 3 to 4 yards a carry, then they can win this game. But the one thing I think the key to this game for the Bears defense is you cannot let Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson run all over you. You can't. Yeah. I don't think Anthony Richardson's going to have some spectacular day through the air. I mean, week 1, he completed 9 passes. He threw 3 interceptions to the Green Bay Packers last week. He has not had a good season. He is solely responsible for 7 turnovers already, and we're going into week 3. I mean, the only way that these guys can beat you, for me personally, is if they pound the ball down your throat. And if the Bears want to win this game, they need to commit to stopping the run and see if Anthony Richardson can beat them. And I promise you, if they do that, Anthony Richardson is going to give the Chicago Bears the ball. He's going to.
Absolutely. I will say this because I want to touch on something that you said. Shane Waldron, to me, has all but phased Roschon Johnson out of this offense. He's phased Khalil Herbert out of this offense. For me, Roschon Johnson is one of these guys that can break tackles. He can catch balls out of the backfield. He's their best straight line runner. He's great in pass pro. This guy should be utilized on this team by Shane Waldron. Unless there's an underlying injury that we don't know about, this guy should not be standing on the sideline with his helmet on. On top of that, Khalil Herbert has been great in between the tackles in his career. I believe he averages almost 5 yards a carry for his NFL career. What I want to see the Chicago Bears come into this game and do is something they have not done in the first 2 weeks, and that is establish a freaking identity. Who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? How are you going to win football games? Meaning, run the ball. Get your play action going off the run so you can roll this quarterback out. Let him use his creativity. He wants to play that way. They even asked him today. They said, have you learned in your first 2 weeks anything you can't do in the pros that you could do in college? And he said, absolutely not. I don't know if that's the right answer yet. Haven't seen enough from him. But what I do know is the Bears have to come into this football game, establish an identity, and pound that rock because this team cannot stop the run. Please, God, we have to do this.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, they should be mimicking the Green Bay Packers game plan from last week, like we just talked
Yes.
about. Malik Willis threw the ball 14 times, and the Packers won the game. They ran for over 260 yards. And you know what? If that means that the Bears have to draw up design runs for Caleb Williams, so be it. I'm fine with it. I mean, people keep saying, "Oh, well, you can't put him in harm's way too often." Well, you guys, he's in harm's way stepping back to pass the ball. I mean, the guy got hit 14, 13 times last week and sacked 7 times. I mean, the only way to stop him from getting crushed every play and give him a couple seconds to throw the ball is to run the ball. Then the defense starts to wonder what you're going to do. You kind of throw them off a little bit. And you know what? If anything, I think so far to this point in the season that Coleman Shelton has been the worst player on the Chicago Bears. But actually, if you look at his Pro Football Focus grades through these first 2 weeks, his run blocking grade is 75.2, which is actually the second best on the Bears behind only Tevin Jenkins at 78.5. So if you want to say take some pressure off Coleman Shelton, run the ball, guys. You have to run the ball. And Sean, I would be absolutely mind blown if you don't see Roshan Johnson this week. I really do honestly believe you're going to see him at some point this week. I mean, at least for pass protection, right? At least at the bare minimum for pass protection.
At least.
And you know what, guys? I'm not sitting here talking smack about DeAndre Swift. I like DeAndre Swift. I think it was a good signing for the Bears. I think he's a playmaker. I think if you give him an open space, you get the ball in his hand, he can create some really big plays for you. But let's face it, guys, he is not one of the best pass protecting running backs in the NFL. And right now, the Bears need all the help they can get back there. All the help they can get.
And we have to be honest, because Caleb Williams right now, if you can keep him in a clean pocket, which he has had at opportune moments throughout these first 2 games, he's completing passes at a 68.8 clip. But he's also being pressured on 36.3% of his dropbacks. And I really think running the ball is really going to be able to keep these guys off of him as much. I mean, I can't imagine Shane Waldron coming in with the same game plan as he had last week, because I don't even know what that game plan was. I mean, do you?
No. I don't think you're going to see a lot of what you saw last week. First of all, I don't think you're going to see Caleb Williams changing the play as much as audibling as much as the line of scrimmage as you did last week. I think sometimes part of the problem last week, I think, and they've come out and pretty much admitted this, is that Caleb Williams was changing the play, but it wasn't necessarily the right play for what the defense had set up. And you know what? That's okay, because Caleb Williams is young and he's still learning. It's his second game in the NFL, guys. Another thing I think you're not going to see as much of this week is the hurry up offense. The Bears did a lot of hurry up offense against the Texans last week. They were not getting into the huddle. They were going up to the line of scrimmage, getting the play call in and snapping the ball. I don't think you're going to see as much of that this week. I think the Bears are going to huddle a lot. And I think the Bears are going to end up running the ball down Colts throats. I think that's exactly I think that's their game plan. I think they're coming to do it. And I think this week they'll probably be successful at it. I'll tell you this, Sean, if you can't run the ball successfully on a team that's given up almost 500 yards rushing in 2 games, we got some big problems, and it's going to be a very long season for the Chicago Bears.
Coming into the season, I mean, we all knew that this O-line wasn't going to be amazing. We just didn't think it was going to be this bad. And hopefully, based on that article that was put out on Sports Mockery today with Brad Biggs commenting on some things that he had heard through his time at Hallis Hall, that there are some possible changes that can be made. Now, we expect, as it is right now, unless there's an injury late in the week, for the starting offensive line to be the exact same as it was in Houston.
Well, Sean, why don't you get into the injury report right now? Because, guys, there are some injuries up front for the Chicago Bears. There's two other offensive linemen.
Yes,
are non-participants or limited.
Yeah, we had Tevin Jenkins, who didn't practice at all. He has a deep thigh bruise, but they also said they're not too worried, and they do think that he will play. Nate Davis, who obviously hates practicing, was limited at practice today. Karan was limited with his quad. Billings was limited with his groin, but I think that groin he's had the last couple of weeks, I don't think that's going to keep him out. Adunze's knee, sweat head, and elbow, they were all limited. Keenan Allen did not practice. Tevin Jenkins, as we just stated, Zach Pickens did not practice as well. And Curry Blasingame is actually on Brad Biggs' injury report as a DMP with a hand and a knee. And, I was kind of saying, and I don't know that Shane Waldron is this guy who likes to run a power eye, but it might be something the Bears have to get back to if Blasingame ever gets on the field, because Blasingame is a pretty damn good fullback in the NFL, and he's a really good blocker. So
there's just no reason not to. First of all, what the Bears have been doing for the last 2 weeks is not working. No. So whether he's an I formation, run the ball up down your throat guy or not, it doesn't matter. He needs to start changing his philosophy, because it's not working. And if you look at the Bears with basically the same offensive line last year, they were one of the best running teams in the NFL. So they you know that this offensive line is capable of doing this. They can run protect. You know they can do that because they did the same 4 guys, excluding Colton Shelton, did it last year. So why don't you give them a chance, see what happens, try to run the ball against a team that is not good at stopping the run. If you have success on it, you can build on that and continue to do that into the future. But this, if you're going to have a game where you want to, first of all, not only are the Colts not good at stopping the run, but their time of possession for the Colts this year has been absolutely abysmal. I mean, they almost don't have the ball at all. The Colts last week, or through 2 games of the season, have a total of time possession of 39.49. So 39 minutes and 49 seconds for 2 games of the season. They played the Packers last week. The Packers had 40 minutes of time possession last week alone. Just that one game alone, they had over 40 minutes time possession. The Colts have less than 40 in 2 games combined. I mean, the Bears can 100% control the pace of this game and try to keep Anthony Richardson off the field as much as you possibly can. Because the only way the Colts could beat you is if Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor start running the ball at a good clip, 5-6 yards a carry. Then they become dangerous.
And you know, we talked about this a little bit before we went on. You know, the fact that the Bears were able to say, hey, we're going to take this away last week, which they're going to probably try and take Jonathan Taylor away from this game plan and try and say, hey, Anthony Richards beat us. If that's the smart game plan, which we all think that it is because this guy just turned the ball over 7 times in 2 weeks, the Bears are going to be sitting in a pretty good spot. And you know, one thing I do want to emphasize, and I was a victim of this week, and I think I was just a little frustrated on Monday, and I apologize, everybody, for overreacting and screaming my head off on Monday. We can't get too high with the highs, and we can't get too low with the lows. And I think, I mean, I felt like someone was kicking my dog on Monday all day coming out of that Sunday night game. And I got to remember, this is a new offense. It's still, you know, new center, new offensive coordinator, young quarterback. There's going to be some highs. There's going to be some lows. We just can't get too high. We can't get too low. We got to keep it in perspective. The Bears have a layup here over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah,
so,
you know, I agree with you, Sean. Now you can look back and you can criticize the Bears for things that they've done wrong. I mean, for instance, they were one of the only 2 teams in the NFL this year that had an extra preseason game with the Hall of Fame game. They did not use that to their advantage. They did not play mostly any of their starters in any of the preseason. I think Caleb Williams ended up getting somewhere around 50 snaps. I mean, you guys, normally I'd be okay with that if it was a team like the Eagles or the Rams where they're established. You know what you're going to get from Matthew Stafford. You know what you're going to get from Cooper Kupp. You know what you're going to get from Puka Nacua, especially a team like that where they've had injury problems in the past. But with a team like the Bears with a brand new offensive coordinator, brand new offensive players, offensive line hasn't really played much together. They're not very cohesive. You need to get as much practice time and preseason live snaps as you possibly can, and the Bears refuse to do that. And now it's biting them in the ass.
Well, you know what sucks too is we're looking at this week, and Nate Davis was limited. Tevin Jenkins isn't practicing, so they're not gaining any kind of cohesiveness during the week off either. And, you know, the interior line for the Bears has allowed 13 pressures, and 5 of them have come from Nate Davis. So, this guy, I don't want to say it, but I really want Matt Pryor in this game. If this guy has a terrible first quarter, I really want them to say enough is enough, give him the hook and pull him out. Because I said this the other day, and I'm going to say it again. Without any accountability, there's never going to be change. You have to hold these guys accountable. You're not doing your job. Hey, Kyle, if you went to work and you had a full bar and you didn't serve anyone any alcohol, would your boss be happy? I mean, hey, everyone just sit here and stare at me. I mean, that's the way I feel about this, about Nate Davis in general. He doesn't like the practice. I feel like he's grabbed money from the Chicago Bears and he stole money from the Chicago Bears. He's living fat and happy and not coming to work, not putting in the effort. And it's time for this guy to get it going because this was not the guy that was in Tennessee. So maybe this again goes back to Chris Morty.
And there's two things to talk about there, Sean. First of all, as you and I discussed earlier today, Matt Eberflus had a press conference today, and he talked about, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but he basically said that there's going to be no changes to the offensive scheme, and there's going to be no changes to the offensive line. You know what? If Matt Eberflus wants to come out and say that, and maybe he's just saying that so that he's not throwing any of his players under the bus, like he doesn't want to come out and be like, yeah, we're going to bench Nate Davis because he sucks. But I understand that. But I wish he would at least have acknowledged that the Bears recognize the problem. Right? That's all you want to hear. Like, you want Matt Eberflus to come out and go, you know what? The offensive line has not been good. We are not protecting Caleb Williams. This is not good for his development. He's going to be killed before the season is over. We have to do something. Something has to change here. Now, whether that means changes the personnel, like we talked about with Roschon Johnson being in the backfield for more pass protection, it doesn't matter. But you got to do something, right? You can't just come out and be like, no. I mean, sometimes Matt Eberflus, does he come across as almost arrogant to you, where he's like,
he kind of does.
Yeah, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to change anything. And this is the way it's going to be, whether you like it or not. Well, Matt, if you end this season with less than 8 wins, I'm pretty sure your ass is canned. So if I were you, I'd do something about it pretty quickly here, because it didn't look good. And another thing I want to talk about real quick is Matt Pryor. Now, Matt Pryor was one of the best players in the preseason for the Chicago Bears. He was perfect. I think he allowed 1 pressure on some 22 snaps or something like that. It's great. He did, however, allow 30 pressures last year. But here's part of the problem. This is why you cannot critique Matt Pryor fairly from last year. Last year, they were moving him from guard to tackle, guard to tackle, guard to tackle. When he finally started to get consistent playing time at guard, overall, he allowed 30 pressures last year. Guys, that's not good. You don't want to be in that boat. That's kind of similar to what Coleman Shelton allowed last year. It's not good.
34.
But they did say in the last 9 games, he allowed like 10 or less, because he got used to that right guard position, and he just seemed to be more comfortable there. Now, if you look at Matt Pryor, if you just look at his build, he looks like a tackle to me. I mean, the guy is long, he's tall, he's huge. But we said the same thing about Tevin Jenkins 2 years ago, and he's ended up, when he's playing well, he's one of the best guards in the NFL. So why not see if Matt Pryor can do the same thing? I can tell you this, Sean. I know this is a cliche statement, and a lot of times people use it to be dramatic, but I don't think it can get anywhere. I mean, if you watch that game, I watched the Texans Bears game again this morning, and it was just so bad, physically unwatchable. At one point I had to turn, I'm like, I can't watch this. Yeah. I mean, and I'll tell you guys, watching the game again, when you really, really look in, Caleb Williams was hurting. He was hurting. I don't know exactly what on him was hurting, but he got banged up. And they said after the game, he was covered in bruises. So, I mean, you do that again, he's not going to make it.
He actually spoke about that in his press conference. They asked him, and he did say today that he's still pretty banged up, but he's feeling good and he's ready to go. He cannot take that abuse, man. He can't. No. And we've given a lot of flowers to Ryan Poles for a lot of the things that he's done to build this team and get this team to where it is. The one critical mistake that I think we've all realized that he's made is he built this team from the outside in instead of from the inside out. And it's rearing its ugly head for the 3rd straight year. And most GMs in most teams don't do that. You don't build stars and leave the trenches alone. And it's very hard to fix this. And again, coming into the season, I know we touched on this on Monday. I didn't think this was a great line. I still don't think it's this bad of a line in which we saw against the Texans. I do think they're going to improve, and I'm really happy right now because, as I stated a couple minutes ago, these next 4 games are layups. You got the Rams next, who are a mash unit, they can't stop a nosebleed. You got Carolina coming up. You got Jacksonville coming up. You got Washington coming up. I mean, these are all very winnable games with – I would say the Bears have more talent on their roster than every single one of those teams that we're about to play.
Yeah, and you know what? I think
these are great games.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, in terms of the offensive line deficiencies, I think personally that some of it could be, more of it could be due in part to the offensive coaching and scheme than it is just the pure lack of talent. Because, like we talked about this, Sean, even last year, first of all, they did not look this bad, not nearly this bad, and even with all the sacks they allowed last year, I'd say a good 20% of them would be Justin Fields' fault. I mean, you can't hold on to the ball for 8 seconds in the NFL, guys. It doesn't matter what offensive line you have. It doesn't matter what coach you have. Eventually, these guys in the NFL, these defensive linemen, these linebackers, they're going to get to you. You don't get 8 seconds. And Justin Fields had a lot of that last year where he just held on the ball too long. This looks like a totally different line. So something I believe in this scheme or something from a coaching aspect is making this offensive line look worse. I do think eventually the Chicago Bears will get this together and they'll at least have an average offensive line in the NFL, especially Shane Waldron, because Shane Waldron has had a lot of success in the NFL. And for the most part, I know a lot of Seattle fans, a lot of Seattle players came out last year and were like, Shane Waldron's not as good as you guys think. But you go talk to the rest of the NFL and that guy's he's got a lot of respect around the league.
He's well respected.
And he had the Seahawks offense. I mean, they were doing great last year. They were one of the biggest play offenses. They had the highest percentage of first downs on first downs. I mean, there's a lot of things you can look at that from that Seattle offense and say there was successful offense they were running there last year. And I think personally for me, I think that, and this is all opinion, but I think that Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore are a better trio to me personally, guys, than Jackson Smith and Jigma, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf. Now, maybe if Tyler Lockett was 22, we could change this. It would be a different conversation. Yeah. But just with where they are in their careers, I'd rather have the Bears offense than the Seahawks offense. So I do at some point expect this offense to look like a little bit like the Seahawks did, not in this terms of the scheme, but just in success. And I will say, Sean, the only thing that does scare me about Shane Waldron is last year he was the worst in the NFL. The Seahawks offense on third down, and they have not been good on third down. They have not been good on third down this year. That's we talked about this when they signed Shane Waldron, and so far it looks like that's a trend that's going to continue. But the guys, it's week 2. There's a lot of time to get this stuff right. But in terms of the Bears and Colts, this particular game, let's move past that Bears-Texans game. Yep. I think 100%, you are 100% correct, Sean. This is a get-right game for the Chicago Bears. If they can't move the ball against the Colts, it's going to be a very long season, guys, a very long season. Not only that, but – and, I think I misspoke. I said that Anthony Richardson had 7 giveaways. I don't think he lost. I know he's fumbled at least 3 times and thrown 4 picks. But I don't think he lost every fumble. So he may not have turned the ball over 7 times, but he's given the defense the opportunity to take the ball away from them 7 times. If he does that against the Bears, Sean, they're going to feast. They're going to feast. I mean, I'm hard-pressed for somebody to find a defense that's better than the Chicago Bears to this point in the season. I mean, not only
I don't think there is.
I mean, not only were they doing what they've been doing, I mean, they shut down the run against the Texans team that 160 yards rushing the week prior, but they're doing it while they're on the field almost the whole game. I mean, if you kept the Bears defense off the field a little bit more, they'd probably look even better. And that's tough to believe considering they look like the best defense in the NFL.
And I think that's coming. I think that's coming. And I believe Brando checking in. What's going on, Brando? And I agree with you 100%. Waldron does need to make this easier.
Yeah. By running the ball.
Yes, by running the ball.
Shane, if you're listening, Shane Waldron, run the ball. You have to run the ball against this team.
Can we send them this segment?
Yeah,
run the damn ball.
Run the ball. I don't care if it's Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert, DeAndre, whoever is the most successful, who's ever playing well that day, keep running the ball. Keep running the ball. I do think that the Bears in the first 2 games of this season have given up on the run way too early. I do, for me personally.
Yeah.
Even if you're not running the ball well, guys, if the defense knows you're not running the ball anymore and all you're going to do is pass, they're going to blitz you every single time. If they know that Caleb Williams has to step back, 3-step, 4, 5-step, 7-step drop back, they're going to continue to blitz him on every single play. Single play.
And I don't care who you are as a quarterback. There's no quarterback in the NFL that can live under that kind of duress.
No,
that
Sean, share. You said to me something about David Carr. He was on 670. Can you share that with the listeners here?
David Carr was saying that, the amount of hits that he took, it actually ruined his career. And he straight up said, if this abuse keeps happening the way it was happening to Caleb Williams, this guy's career is going to be ruined. He's going to be seeing shadows, man. And that's what happened to David Carr. I mean, David Carr was a really good quarterback, but he got sacked like 95 times a year, and it rattled his brain.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made that same thing happened to Justin Fields. I think and it come late in the first year into the second year. I think Justin Fields was seeing ghosts too, because we saw plenty of times where Justin Fields was standing in that pocket, and it was a clean pocket, guys. There was plenty of room, but Justin just took off and run because he's like, I'm just used to getting killed, so I'm not going to hang around here too long. And that's what happens.
I think
it creates bad habits. It creates bad habits. That's what happens I believe that Justin Fields, actually, the first game of his career when he got sacked 9 times against Cleveland, I believe he broke his non-throwing hand, and they just never talked about it because I think it came out later that his hand was actually broken.
Yeah, and Brandon
can't do that to Caleb.
We did touch on this a little bit earlier about how LaFleur ran the ball. Willis was 12 for 14. Didn't ask him to do too much. Willis actually, here, the guy sucked in Tennessee. Let's be honest. The guy was an awful quarterback. Whatever LaFleur did got him comfortable, got him doing what he had to do, and he was successful. 12 of 14. I don't give a shit. I think his average depth of target too was 8.7 yards. So he wasn't throwing little 4-yard dink and dunks either.
Sean, if you came up to me and just asked me, hey, Kyle, pick any team in the NFL you'd like the Bears to play right now to get this thing back on track. Colts may not be the worst team in the NFL, but they are probably the team I would pick just because they do not have match up well against the Bears. First of all,
Colts or Carolina.
Yeah, and for the first 2 weeks of the season, the Colts have been good at creating plays downfield. The Bears don't give up big plays. That's just they just don't do it. They have 2 good safeties, they have 3 good corners, and they stick to their man. They're not Alec Pierce is not going to get a 70-yard touchdown on Sunday, guys. It's not going to happen. So the Colts are going to have to find a different way to win. You're going to see a lot of Anthony Richardson running, and you're going to see a lot of Jonathan Taylor. If the Bears can shut down the run like they did last week against Houston, the Indianapolis Colts are in for a very long day against the Chicago Bears. The Bears just have to score. At some point, guys, it's time to score touchdowns. We need to score touchdowns.
I will say this, and we missed this on the injury report earlier when we said it. Latu is questionable. They have not. I did not see if he practiced today, but they did say, oh no, he did not practice today. They did not rule him out for Sunday yet. And Josh Downs, I believe, is returning for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yep, he already said he's making his season debut on Sunday. So Josh Downs doesn't scare me.
That doesn't scare me. I'm not worried with our secondary, but I will, as long as Brandon's here. I had this little stat, and I just wanted to throw it out there really quick. So far, because we had this big discussion in the offseason, and I'm sure Brandon knows exactly where I'm going right now, and Kyle, you might too. Our man in the middle, Gervon Dexter, senior, baby. 5 total tackles, 3 solos, 3 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks, and 2 games, baby. He's stepping up. It's exactly what we said was we needed to see from him going into the season. If he can keep up that disruptiveness throughout the entire season, man, the Bears defense is going to be even better.
I mean, Sean, the Bears are a star-studded, and this is no disrespect to Darrell Taylor or Darrell Taylor. This is no disrespect to DeMarcus Walker. They are one, like all-star, all-pro defensive end away from being the best defensive line in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, if Andrew Billing, if you saw, guys, we looked at the rankings today for defensive tackles and basically their Pro Football Focus scores, I guess you'd say, their efficiency, and there are 3 Bears in the top 10. I mean, and Andrew Billings is probably the most underrated player in the NFL. There are probably 1 million football fans who can't even tell you what team Andrew Billings plays for, and he is absolutely a wrecking ball in the middle of that line. Not only can he get after the quarterback, but you cannot run the ball when he's on the field. You can't run up the middle when he's on the field. And I wanted to say to Scott real quick, Scott Angel down there said that the Bears don't have to run the ball up the middle every time. What I think the Bears should do is do kind of like a thunder and lightning thing, which is what most teams in the NFL do nowadays. Use Roschon Johnson to beat up the interior of the defensive line a little bit. Keep hitting them, get them calloused up, get them bruised up, and then you get DeAndre Swift in open space around the outside, so on and so forth. And it's kind of a thunder and lightning, a 1-2 punch. The Bears they can't just do this thing where they continue to use DeAndre Swift every play, every down, and nobody else ever sees. First of all, you guys, when he had his best season on the Philadelphia Eagles last year, they didn't do that. DeAndre Swift was not on the field every single play. They used a lot of Kenneth Gainwell. And they used a lot of Boston Scott. What was his name? Boston Scott. They both got plenty of playing time. They gave DeAndre Swift a lot of rests and a lot of time to catch his breath and get him in open space and create big plays. The Bears need to start doing the same thing. I mean, that's you signed him. The reason this Bears signed DeAndre Swift is probably solely because what he did last year. Because the first 3 years of his career, he was hurt a lot. So I'm assuming they weren't looking at the first 3 years of his career going, man, we really want this guy on the team. He's amazing. They looked at what he did on. Now, obviously, guys, Philadelphia Eagles have the much better offensive line, so anybody's going to look better playing for the Eagles. No doubt about that. But I don't think that DeAndre Swift was some wasted free agent. I think they could still get a lot out of him. They just have to start using these guys in the right fashion, right, Sean? I mean, at some point, Roschon Johnson, you have to bring in a bruiser to beat up the defensive line a little bit. The Bears need to do it. You know, my favorite thing about Roschon Johnson too. No matter what it is, he's always falling forward. He's not taking losses. He'll get you 2 yards on every carry. Yes. You guys know. You know that. Last week, DeAndre Swift was the only player in the NFL, the only running back in the NFL. This is true. I just saw this right before we got in here. That his average point of contact for every play was actually before he got to the line of scrimmage. So he was being contacted average on every play before he made it back to the line of scrimmage. If that's gonna continue, Roschon Johnson's the only guy that's going to be able to get you those 200-300 yards. I mean, there's no DeAndre Swift's not that guy, guys. He's not the guy who can get hit by a defensive tackle in the backfield, stand next to Caleb Williams, and break a tackle and create 4 or 5 yards. He's not that guy. That's just not him. He needs open space. He's shifty. He's not a power runner. The Bears need to start thinking about using a power running game. And Sean, like you said, I don't care if it's Blasting game. Sure, fine. If that's the guy you think you could beat up the defensive line, then put him in there. I don't care. But if you keep doing this, and DeAndre Swift's not going to make it through the whole season. It's just not
because he's not an every down back. He's never been an every down back in his career. And you can't change someone and make them something that they're not. And he's not that guy. It can be very explosive in the right sides. And I think this is a game where he will be able to exploit the edges a little bit more. He wasn't doing that against Hunter and Anderson and those monsters, dude. They set the edge too well. I don't see anything on this defense. I think the Bears offense is going to play very, very well. I think they're going to have time. I don't think there's a lot of threats on Indianapolis that are going to make them. I do realize that this is a copycat league, and they are going to bring pressure. Hey, stop it. I just don't know if they have the people good enough to create the pressure.
No, they don't. They don't.
But can the Bears stop 5?
That's the question. Is there going to be a free rusher? Because it could be me out there, Sean. But if nobody touches me, I'm going to get to the quarterback eventually. Yeah, the Bears. If you look at the Bears for the first 2 games, and I understand you can go back and watch that Texans game and just think in your head, man, this is awful, this is bad, this is terrible. But they actually were more productive against the Texans than they were week 1. So even if that's a trajectory that's just a tiny, tiny bit up, it may not be straight up, but like that, the Bears have gotten better through the first 2 games of the season, and I fully expect that to continue. As a matter of fact, I expect the offensive line to look a lot better than it did last week, even if it's not great. I still expect it to look better than last week. So, and like we talked about, Sean, there is no better team to do that against than the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, guys, go look at their defensive statistics. The Bears match up against them perfectly. The Bears have been struggling to get the run going. This is a team that lets you run the ball. The Bears defense has been stopping teams from getting big plays. That's basically the only way the Colts have scored this year. The Bears are good at stopping the run. Their most dangerous 2 players on the team on the field for the Colts are Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. So if the Bears can shut those 2 down, they got nowhere else to go. And, I'm not taking anything away from Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce because I like them both a lot. Even Josh Downs is a good player. I don't think they're bad players, but I don't think they're anything that Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon are.
Don't forget about Donnie Mitchell.
Yes, I mean, but these guys eventually are going to run into Justin Jefferson's. They're going to run all those. Yeah. I think the Michael Pittmans of the world are probably kind of, I want to say week off, but they're like, well, this is definitely one of the better weeks. They certainly don't want to play Justin Jefferson. I can tell you that. Nobody does.
Nobody does.
And they're going to play Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, this is not going to be one of their toughest challenges this year. And like I said, I'm not taking anything away from the Colts receiving corps because I think it's actually a pretty good room they got over there. I just don't think they're as good as this Bears secondary is. I really don't. I think this Bears secondary is better than a lot of receiving corps in the NFL.
The Bears are going to attempt to take away their strengths, and I think they're going to be successful, and that's going to lead me into prediction time, unless there's anything else you'd like to touch on in this ball game.
No, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it all.
I think the Bears are going to do very well. I think Caleb Williams is going to get his first passing touchdown. By the way, guys, he probably should have already had 2. I like the Bears in this game. I was almost tempted to not give Indianapolis a touchdown in this game. I was really, really close to change my mind at the last second. I do think it's going to be very, very tough for them to find offensive movement. I have not ever been an Anthony Richardson fan. I think he's an athletic freak. I think he can run like the wind. I think he's shifty, but the guy cannot throw the ball with accuracy. And if the Bears do what they did in the second half of that game and say, hey, we're going to take the run away, Anthony Richardson beat us, the Bears might beat their brains in. They might beat the brakes off this team. I'm going to take the Bears 20-10. And I wanted to say 27, but I want to see it first. I want to see them score. I'm going to stick with 20-10 Bears. What do you got, Kyle?
Well, so obviously, Sean, I think you and I both agree that I would like this game a lot more at home. I just think that the Colts would probably be a little bit slower on grass than they are on turf. Now, that sucks that the Bears have to go to Indianapolis, but that's the schedule and that's the way it is. I still like the Bears in this game. I think that through the last 6 weeks of the last season and then the first 2 weeks of this season, the Bears have taken the ball away more than any other team in the NFL. And through the first 2 games of this season, the Colts have given away the ball more than any other team in the NFL. So right now, this is a recipe for success for the Chicago Bears. The Bears should win this game handily. I mean, they should win this game without a problem. I mean, if Malik Willis and the banged-up Packers can beat the Colts, there's no reason why the Chicago Bears should not be able to beat this team. I agree, Sean. I think that the Colts will probably find a way to sneak out a touchdown. It seems like the Bears actually have kind of get off to a little bit slow starts defensively. Both the touchdowns they've allowed, both 2 of the 3 touchdowns they allowed this season were very early in the game.
Yeah.
I think I could probably see something like that again, where the Colts kind of maybe the first or second drive get down the field and Jonathan Taylor punches the ball in. But I think the Bears will hammer down after that, and ultimately this game will end up being 13-23 Bears. I think Anthony Richardson is going to turn the ball over, and I think he's going to give the Bears short fields. And I agree with you, Sean. I think this is going to be Caleb Williams' first passing touchdown of his career.
And I do want to touch on something just before we switch over to some fantasy smash plays. Andrew Billings is an unsung hero on this football team. His groin doesn't seem to be too bad at this moment, but God forbid we lose that guy for any amount of time. This defense is going to look a lot different. That guy is the most underrated signing and the unsung hero of this defense in my mind. You guys may feel different, but that guy's a game changer.
Yeah, for everything that people criticize Ryan Poles for, man, it's hard to hate the guy. There's just been so many things he's done that have been absolutely great for this team. I mean, Andrew Billings is the front runner for maybe the best signing Ryan Poles has had since he's been here. It's not just the fact that he signed Andrew Billings, guys. It's the fact that he signed him at a bargain. I don't know if none of the other teams were watching, but I mean, Andrew Billings the year before he came to Chicago was one of the top 3 run stoppers in the NFL. Yeah. And the Bears got him over here for nothing, almost nothing. I mean, that was absolutely a phenomenal move by the Chicago Bears. And Sean, you're right. Unless Zach Pickens makes some miraculous turnaround and becomes a great player in the NFL, if they lose Andrew Billings or Montez Sweat, this team's in trouble. I mean, the Bears cannot, if they suffer any major injuries this year, it's going to be a tough go for the Chicago Bears for sure. They're just not deep enough yet, guys. They still, you know what? I don't think any Bears fans truly expected the Bears to win the Super Bowl this year. Even if you talk to Bears fans who had high hopes or I like the enthusiasm, I think they're going to be 17-0 and they're going to do that's great. But realistically, I don't think anybody expected them to win the Super Bowl. I think they 100% expected to keep building this team next year. And the Bears have a lot of draft picks, guys. So if all the holes we're talking about, that defensive end position, guard, center, they can fill this all up. And the Bears, I think, are 10th right now and the most money to spend in free agency. Yeah. So there's still a lot of good things to come for this team. They just got to get through this season and make sure Caleb Williams is developing and gets better every game. And I do think that will start on Sunday with the Indianapolis Colts, 100%.
And we get our final piece with the Carolina trade in the second round. Maybe that's our future center or Nate Davis's replacement. Who knows? I do think going into that draft, it's going to be lineman, and as it should be. Yes,
it's time to build the trenches. Sean, do you know the numbers on if they cut Nate Davis this year compared to next year? I know it's something ridiculous.
It's really high. I wanted to say 14 million. If you guys, Dustin or Brandon, you know this. I think it's 14 million this year, but next year it's only 2.
Yeah. So what he's talking about, guys, what we're talking about is if the Bears decided they wanted to cut Nate Davis this year, they would have to eat $14 million in dead cap space. But if they can just wait it out, and even if you have to put Nate Davis on the bench or on the practice squad, I don't care. But if you wait it out till next year, I think it's only $2.5 million in dead cap they have to eat. So
yeah, I'm gonna have
the people keep saying cut Davis, guys. That is not the best move for the Chicago Bears. I know people are like, I don't care about the money.
$11,352,941.
Yeah, and if you next year it's 2 or 3 or something like that. So the best case scenario for the Bears is to keep Nate Davis on this team roster until next year.
Yeah, they have no choice.
Yes.
You know what though? He can put on a hat since he doesn't like the practice, and he can sit on the sideline and watch a guy like Matt Pryor tear it up and do what he's been supposed to be doing these last couple of years.
Yeah, go ride the bike, Nate.
Oh no. We have a computer crash. This is not good.
All right, Sean, do you want to switch over to?
Yeah, I would love to switch over, but I lost all my fantasy notes. Oh no, we got it. They're back. All right. Yeah, we're gonna switch over to some smash plays. We did all right last week. We had some good ones, and guys, we usually like to do this Wednesday, do some prop bets and stuff, but unfortunately, as the season continues to move on, the prop bets are going to start coming out later on Wednesday and more on Thursday. So what we're thinking about doing is putting them on the Facebook page and maybe doing a quick 5-minute video and just getting them all out there on maybe Friday or Saturday and see how we do. Last week, Most of our smash starts did pretty well as I'm looking at them here. The bets, the props that we had, we hit the Najee Harris over 53.5. We missed, we got the Kincaid over 36.5 receiving yards.
We got James Cook over 83.5 total. He smashed that.
James
I think he had
Cook.
that in the first half.
We got Shakur over 3.5 receptions and over his 40 receiving yards.
We got the Bills money line. The Bills winning the game against the Dolphins.
Yep. And just so we're all clear, guys, you guys can timestamp this. I said on Thursday I was smashing Devonta Smith over 53 receiving yards, and this was before A.J. Brown's injury came out. And the reason why I did that is the same reason I'm going to downplay a receiver this week, because that secondary in Atlanta is really good, man. A.J. Terrell is a really good corner. Jesse Bates is back there. You saw him bracket cover Devonta Smith to take that game away on Sunday or Monday night, excuse me. They were planning to do that to A.J. Brown, so that's the reason why I went all in on Devonta Smith. He only wound up with like 77 yards, but he still beat it by over 25 yards. The one that sucked that we missed was the Justin Fields over 45 rushing yards. Now, he had 24 rushing yards in the first
Sean,
6 minutes.
Drive. It was the first.
Yes. And then he had nothing. The rest of when he had those 24 yards, I'm like, man, he's gonna smash that 45 yards, and then nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, I was looking at stardom situms online for fantasy, and there was people saying that Justin Fields could win you your fantasy matchup this week because he's playing against a poor rush defense. Yeah. You guys, I think the fact of the matter is, I think Justin Fields is just trying to prove to people that he can be a pocket passer. I think that's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to hone in his skills. I think he already knows he can run the ball. If his defense is going to keep him in the game like they have been, allowing 2, 3, 6, 10 points, he's going to continue to try to throw the ball and get better every day. One of the things I do want to say real quick, Sean, is you took the over 48.5 for the Bills Dolphins game, and I think you even said you'd move it down to 46.5 to feel more comfortable.
I moved it down to 45, and I still missed it.
There are no excuses in gambling on football, but if Tua Tagovailoa never gets hurt in that game, that over is smashed, absolutely destroyed. They would have scored something combined around 56, 58 points. So don't hate on Sean for that one missed bet. For the most part, Sean, you have been absolutely miraculous there. Keep it up. You know what I think you should do, Sean, is actually either – you guys, what we can do is either put them out on Brandon and Dustin's show. We can show them across the bottom of the screen there, Sean's bets. Or Sean will do a 5-minute short for you guys on Saturday morning. He'll tell you guys what to bet on. But if you guys have been watching Sean and you've been watching his bets, you'd be making money right now if you listen to what he's saying. I mean, just try not to parlay all of them, guys, because then when you lose one, you lose them all. So try to bet them individually and do parlays. I
was going to say, generally for me, I will parlay them, but I will also bet them single. Because, like you said, I had that that 4. Oh man, I'm still salty about that. Barkley falling just short, because I had those 4 touchdowns on lock, and he got in there. I actually jumped off the couch like, yeah. And then I was like, oh man, his knee looks down, and sure enough, his knee was down.
And that drop pass he had, that he would walk into the end zone on that play as well too. It's just bad luck, guys. Football is a game of inches, and you're not going to get every bet. But Sean, I think at this point in the season, through 2 weeks, I think you're hitting like some 76% clip right now. So
we're doing pretty well.
Nothing to hang your head on, man.
Hey, and I'm just going to tell you guys, I'm sorry, and I did it because I think the Bears are going to win this game. The Bears, earlier today, I threw a quick $100 on the Chicago Bears plus 100 down I-65 South in Indianapolis, because I don't see a world in which Indianapolis is going to win this game. I mean, I guess I could be wrong, but
I mean, guys, if I was in a confidence pool, I would be putting double-digit points on the Bears over the Colts. I just think the Bears' defense is too much for that Colts offense to handle. I think ultimately this is the Bears' game to lose. I think the only way they can lose is if they get in their own way and shoot themselves in the foot too many times. I think the Bears are a better team than the Indianapolis Colts.
Guys, I did hit this anytime touchdown parlay right here that I forgot to put on. I know it's a little hard to see. It was Derrick Henry, Jordan Mason, J.K. Dobbins, all touchdown scorers. I did that one. I put that one up as well on the site. I also had Brandon Ayuk under 70.5 receiving yards right here, and Jordan Mason over 60 rushing yards was also a smash play for me last week. And I believe I put that up. I might have forgot to do that one. But I'm going to keep rolling them out. And look, guys, like Kyle just said, man, it's a game of inches, dude. And sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. And when Tua got
guys,
hurt,
if Sean won every bet, you wouldn't have a job anymore. He'd be sitting on his couch watching football every day. It's tough, man.
It's gonna continue to get tougher because Vegas is not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing.
I mean, Sean, that Bills Dolphins is a perfect example. I mean, that for a fact, if Tua never gets hurt in that game, that over is easy peasy. I mean, they were on the 10-yard line there. I think if they would have scored there, you would have been like 1 point shy. And then
I think it finished at 41. It was 31-10. It finished at 41.
Yeah. So if they scored it down,
I took it down to 45.
They were at like the 10-yard line. So if Tua Tagovailoa doesn't get hurt and they score that touchdown right there, you're already basically when you took it down to 45, you already got your over right there. But man, the second Skylar Thompson came in, that guy is awful. It's just one thing we need to talk. I want to talk about real quick, Sean. Is I've been saying this to people, to football fans that come into the bar. These teams in the NFL, if you go look at the injuries that have been happening in the NFL over the last couple of years, these teams in the NFL need to start taking the backup quarterback position much more seriously. That's going to start to be one of the highest paid positions in the NFL. I mean, you guys, every quarterback in the NFL misses time nowadays. Everyone, they all do. At some point, they all miss a couple of games. So they need to start taking that position more seriously. I mean, Skylar Thompson looked like he has never played football a day in his life, and he's throwing it to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, you couldn't have a better scenario for a backup quarterback. Like, hey, man, throw a 3-yard slant, and they'll take it 98 yards for a touchdown. That's all you got to do. And he still couldn't get anything done. I mean,
you know what Skylar Thompson's problem is? He's a Kansas State product.
That's why he sucks.
Hey, Nick. Just break those parlays and do single individuals with the parlay, because at least if you hit 2 of the 3, you're getting your money back and then a little bit extra.
I was about to say, Nick, if you just take those parlays and you bet each one of those the legs individually, you'll at least make enough money so that you haven't lost any money on the actual parlay itself if one of those legs doesn't hit. So try to, with the one Sean gives you guys these bets, try to bet them as individuals and then pick the ones you feel the most comfortable with and parlay them together.
It's going to be an interesting week. I'm going to try and get something out for tomorrow's game, and it's going to have a lot to do with Garrett Wilson and Breece
Sean,
Hall.
Has it always been this slow? I feel like last year on Wednesday they already had a lot of the over-unders out.
You know, I don't know. I'm in here right now, and I'm just kind of looking around, and I mean, some of the games are up, but like if I look at
but even when you look at them, there's only like 2 or 3 receivers, maybe 1 running back. I mean, they're just not getting the over-unders out.
I honestly think a lot of it has to do with maybe injury reports not being out. I really don't know, because I'm looking at the Bears game right now. I mean, they have Anthony Richardson and Caleb up. Let's see, rushing yards. So the Bears game is up. It was not up a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, I think Wednesday night is usually when most of them start coming in.
You know what? They are. Here they are. They got DeAndre Swift over 52 rushing yards. And they haven't added a guy like, Roshan Johnson yet, Khalil Herbert. These guys aren't on here. You can bet on DeAndre Swift and Jonathan Taylor right now. Yeah, for me,
I wouldn't touch. Yeah,
look for Roshan Johnson this week. He's probably, I swear, he'll probably be over 15 to 20 rushing yards. Slam the hell out of that.
I don't think it'll even be that.
Slam the hell out of that.
I don't think it'll even be that. I don't.
It might not be. It might be like 10.
It might be Sean, it might be 0.5 because he hasn't played a snap this year. He hasn't played a snap in the Bears game this year, so he might be 0.5, guys. If you can get him over 0.5, take that, smash that all day. I mean, that's
Joe Dicka. What's up, dude?
What's up, Timmy? All right, guys. So we're gonna get into our Week 3 fantasy sit-ems for every position here. Sean, I'll let you start since I don't want to steal any of your thunder here.
No, I'm gonna go one, then you give me one, and I'm gonna start off with my favorite guy of the week.
Oh, what position are you? Let's go position first. So we'll start with wide receivers, guys.
Yeah, I want to start with wide receiver because we were just talking about Waddle and Hill. And my smash play of the week is going to be none other than Jamar Chase. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way because Washington gives up receiving yards. Like, I don't even know. They just give them away for free. And they've already had
candy at a parade, man. Candy at a parade.
Exactly. Neighbors torch them.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Burrow to Chase, Burrow to Chase, Burrow to Chase. He's going to get loose. He's going to.
Is T. Higgins still out?
Have not seen the injury report on him yet. And I don't even know if it matters. I think Jamar Chase is thirsty for the end zone. He's thirsty for a big game. He's thirsty for that $35 million he wants per year. And there's no better team to get it against than the Washington Commanders.
Guys, I couldn't agree with Sean more on this one. He was not personally not on my list just because those guys like Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, those guys pretty much should be in your lineup every single week. You should never really be taking those guys out. But yeah, there's not a guy on the Washington Commanders who can stop Jamar Chase. There's nobody in the secondary there to stop him.
So far this year, Tampa Bay, Godwin finished 8th. Evans finished 6th, and Neighbors finished 3rd last week against Washington secondary.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Chris Godwin is the #1 fantasy wide receiver.
You know what? Really quick, because this is exactly how we all thought it would go when we drafted. Through 2 weeks, Chris Godwin, 47 fantasy points. Nico Collins, 45. Malik Neighbors, 40. Cup, 39. And he missed a game and a half. Or he missed almost the whole game. Justin Jefferson at 39, Jameson Williams at 38, Jaden Reed at 38, Alex Pierce at 38, Rashid Shaheed at 37. That boy's smoking. Devontae Adams at 36. You got Debo at 36, and my boy Rashee Rice at 35. I mean, I had Chris Godwin as the #1 receiver. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. All right, guys. So Sean gave you guys Jamar Chase is his smash play of the week. My start of the week, and like I said, guys, I'm going to try to do guys who are you guys probably have on your bench and you're kind of considering starting them, but you're like, I don't know. They're not necessarily the top names in the NFL. But this week for me, Rashid Shaheed against Philadelphia is a play, guys. Start him. So through the first weeks of the season, Rashid Shaheed has been the biggest downfield threat in the NFL. Derek Carr has been great. The team as a whole looks great. They have a very balanced offense at running the ball and passing the ball. And they're about to play a Philadelphia defense who is not good in the secondary right now, guys. Now, I do think eventually the Philadelphia secondary will get better with the additions of Mitchell and what's his name? The cornerback they drafted, Cooper DeJean. I think eventually those guys the NFL will slow down for them a little bit and they will eventually end up being a good secondary. But right now they are not, guys. And last week, or just Monday night, Darnell Mooney had a day. I mean, Drake London had a decent day. I mean, they're just not good at stopping wide receivers right now. And so far, Rashid Shaheed's been one of the best receivers in the NFL this year. This is Rashid Shaheed's first real chance this season to play as a full-time #2 receiver. And man, he has shown up big time. So if you guys took a chance on Shaheed at some point in your fantasy draft, you got him on your bench, plug him into one of your flex or your wide receiver spots this week, guys. He will take care of you.
Really quick, Miles, thank you for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. We want some rivals on the show, but I don't want to spoil your fun. I mean, you can keep bringing it, but I think you guys are going to get trucked on Sunday.
Well, you know what? I will say, guys, I've always had a tiny spot in my heart for the Colts just because I love Peyton Manning. I was a big Peyton Manning fan. I was a big Reggie Wayne fan. I was a big Joseph Adai fan. I loved all those guys. I do like the Colts, but 100%, guys, this week, bear down. I hope the Bears pound the Colts into the floor. Sean, give me another start at wide receiver.
Hey, and really quick, Miles, just think about how you guys are going to move the ball on the Bears and then get back to me. My next smash play of the week is going to be the guy who has started slow and you don't like him right now and you want to slap him in the face for having him on your fantasy team. But I'm going Garrett Wilson against the New England Patriots. Christian Gonzalez, that's fine. He doesn't scare me. I think this is going to be his week. They got torched by DK Metcalf last week. I think
and Jackson Smith and
Jackson Smith. Yeah, he had 16 targets, 12 catches, 100+ yards. I love Garrett Wilson this week, guys. Don't be scared, Kyle. You're going to love him this week. 25 fantasy points. Him and Rodgers are going to go bonkers. I'm taking him over, smash him, give him a touchdown. Let's go, Garrett Wilson. Get back on that train.
All right, guys. So far we've got Sean. His smash-ems of the week are Garrett Wilson and Jamar Chase, and my sneaky play of the week so far is Rashid Shaheed. I got one more for you guys right here. Everybody start Khalil Shakir versus Baltimore. Baltimore is ranked 25th versus the position, so 25th versus wide receivers in fantasy, and Khalil Shakir and Josh Allen are clearly starting to create some continuity there, guys. I mean, they have clearly that right now to me is Josh Allen's go-to guy. I think eventually guys like Curtis Samuel and guys like Keon Coleman will start to get more involved in this offense. But early and often, you should see guys like Shakir and Dalton Kincaid to get targets from Josh Allen because he's comfortable with them already, them being on the team last year. I do think Khalil Shakir will have a really good game against Baltimore this week. I think he's going to get a ton of targets. I think he's probably going to end up with somewhere around 6 or 7 catches, somewhere around 80, 90 yards, and hopefully a touchdown. So if you guys got Shakir on your bench and you're contemplating putting him in or not, throw him in there, guys.
I'll give you one more, because I think he's due. It's been 2 weeks. He didn't have training camp. But we also have no Debo. We have no CMC. So I think it's going to be a very nice Brandon Ayuk week, because the Rams are a mash unit, and they can't stop anybody. I mean,
they're banged up. They're banged up, man. Their secondary wasn't good to begin with, but they're banged up, man. They are getting killed by injuries.
He's not so sneaky no more. No, he's busting out, man. He should be in everyone's until Derek Carr, since Derek Carr has turned into Peyton Manning. I think
be careful, Dustin, because there's Dustin and Brian are the ones who are like, hey, Isaiah Likely's going to be amazing every week. Oh, you didn't look too good last week, guys. You did not look too good last week. Be careful with these guys who have really good games, because it's early in the season and eventually they will start to get more attention from defenses. I do like Rashid Shaheed this week, but that doesn't mean I put him in my lineup every single week because of what he's done for the first 2 weeks of the season. Sean, another one I got for you real quick. This one's I feel like it's more obvious because AJ Brown's seems like he's going to be out again. But Devonta Smith versus New Orleans, guys, is a great play this week. New Orleans is 20 versus the position, and they've given up some big plays to wide receivers this year. So if you have Devonta Smith and you just so happen to have Jamar Chase and some other stud on your team, think about putting Devonta Smith in for one of your studs if you're worried about him this week. Obviously not a guy like Jamar Chase, but if there's somebody like, for instance, with this week, guys, be careful with Mike Evans, man. He's playing the number 1 secondary in the NFL versus the position. I expect a pretty slow week for Mike Evans. I think actually Chris Godwin will have a good week because I think he's still considered to most defenses the number 2 on that team.
You want to know what's funny? My number 1 lower your expectations, Mike Evans. Yeah. Patrick Surtain, guys, is the real deal, dude. That guy's a stud corner, man. That guy can shut you down, will shut you down. I would lower my expectations. The other guy, I'll give you one more. And Dustin, if you're listening, man, I'm sorry, dude, but I'm gonna back off on Malik Neighbors against lower my expectations against Cleveland and Cleveland. I know what Dallas did to him in week 1 in Cleveland, but Cleveland historically over the past couple of seasons has been locked down at home. They're really good defense. They're going to get after Daniel Jones. I'm not saying bench him by any means. I'm just saying lower your expectations. I don't think it's going to be.
I hope so, Dustin. I got him in my fantasy league. I hope he has a huge day, but that's a tough matchup for him. Sean, my sit of the week, my number 1 sit of the week, and I think this was probably a little bit obvious because he's been absolutely horrendous and abysmal this year, and so has the offense in general. Christian Kirk versus Buffalo is a massive sit, guys. Buffalo is 3rd in the NFL in fantasy versus position wide receivers. I think Christian Kirk has fallen out of favor for Trevor Lawrence for some reason. I don't understand why, because obviously what the Jaguars have been doing this season is not working. They're now 0-2, guys. Their offense does not look good. Trevor Lawrence does not look good. So I think they should try to get back to what they were doing last year that was successful for them, which was Christian Kirk. But this week in particular against Buffalo defense, that's been a lot better than people thought they were going to be going into the season. Sit Christian Kirk. Another sit for me this week, guys, is Christian Watson versus the Tennessee Titans. Now, I know Watson hasn't been a very good player to begin with, and you like guys like Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs have been better this year anyway. But if anybody was thinking to themselves, well, maybe this is the week where Christian Watson gets right. This is not the week he's going to do it. He's playing Tennessee this week, and they are 5th against the position. As a matter of fact, Sean and I both said on this podcast that we think that Tennessee's defense is going to end up somewhere in the top half of the NFL this year. And so defense. Far, guys, they look really good. They look absolutely really good. It's too unfortunate for them. They don't have a quarterback, but right now that defense looks really good. Sean, let's shift over to our running backs.
Running backs. Let me find them on this page. Where are my running backs? I got them. I'm going to go a little bit off the cuff here. My first one I'm just going to say is obvious, and this is going to be a continuous thing every single week because this guy is awesome. Jordan Mason, as long as there's no CMC, and now you don't have Debo to steal carries from him out of the backfield, it's not a sneaky play. I'm just saying, guys, leave this guy in because he's amazing. Like, I love everything about Jordan Mason, dude. The smash. Also, smash is over against the Rams when it comes out, especially if it's anywhere around 60 yards like it was last week. Shit, smash that. He's going to toast these guys.
And you guys, I agree with Sean. Jordan Mason's actually one of the guys I had written down here. And I know, like you said, it's kind of obvious, so it's tough to put him in here because I think he's probably in most people's lineups anyway, or at least he should be. But you guys, he's playing the Rams this week, who are ranked 30th against the position in fantasy football. They cannot stop the run. They have a better chance to stop a nosebleed than they do the run. So everybody smash Jordan Mason, put him in on every single week until he proves to you guys otherwise.
Yep.
Sean, you
or
got another
CMC returns.
Yeah, which they're saying could be a lot longer than people thought.
Yes.
Sean, you got another one for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna take Ramondre Stevenson on Thursday Night Football. He's going up against the Jets. The Jets allowed 147 to Mason. They gave up 130 last week. I thought this defense was going to be pretty stout, but I mean
They're a little banged up.
They are banged up and they're getting gashed. And Ramondre Stevenson he's off to a good start. He took a step back a little bit last week. His first week was phenomenal. Last week took a little step back. But I love offenses on short weeks. The defenses always seem to be a little bit more tired on Thursday. Not enough time to recover. You pound the ball. That's a big-bodied running back. I really do like him this week.
Yeah, I agree, Sean. Devon Achane and James Cook looked pretty damn good last Thursday. That seems to be a recurring pattern here. The guys, Dustin kind of stole me a little bit of my thunder. I think DeAndre Swift finally gets it right this week, guys. I think he's up against the Colts. The Colts are 28 versus position. I can't believe they're not 32nd versus position. Like we said with you guys, they gave up over 260 yards last week to the Green Bay Packers. They gave up over 200 yards the first week against the Houston Texans rushing. I think DeAndre Swift finally gets it right. I think he'll be involved in the run game and the pass game. I think DeAndre Swift has a good game for fantasy teams. If you got him on your team, you're thinking about flexing him, throw him in. Another guy for me personally, you guys, this one might come back to bite me in the ass. This is a very ballsy startup, but I actually do like, and I know he's been terrible through the first 2 weeks of the season, but I like Zamir White against the Panthers, guys. I do. I think if anything, the game script is going to be good for Zamir White. So Zamir White, basically what they've been saying is he hasn't been playing as much because Alexander Madison is better as a pass catcher, and the Vegas Raiders have been playing from behind. I think against the Panthers, the Raiders will have to lead pretty much the entire game. I think by the end of the game, they'll be trying to run the clock out. You're going to see a lot of Zamir White. The Panthers are giving up almost, I think it was 8 yards a carry they're giving up. They are by far the 31st against the position against running backs in fantasy. Guys, if you have Zamir White, this is, if there's ever a good week to put him in, this is the week. I think he's going to have a big game. I think he probably gets somewhere around 20 carries. He'll probably end up somewhere around 120, 130 yards rushing, hopefully a touchdown. But he also does occasionally get a catch, maybe 1 or 2 catches a game. So you can add that to, if you're a PPR league, you can add that to. But I would 100% start Zamir White this week against the Panthers.
I'll give you one more here before we move to lower your expectations. I'm going to take Tony Pollard versus the Green Bay Packers, guys. The Packers in week 1 gave up 163 on the ground. Last week, they gave up 140 to Indy. Tony Pollard has got 8 receptions. He's got 196 yards from scrimmage. He averaged 5 yards against the Bears. He went down a little bit last week against the Jets. Wasn't quite as high. But the Packers are giving up 25.15 fantasy points per game through the first 2 seasons to running backs. Tony Pollard has looked really good. Get him in your lineup. I'm going to be looking at his over-under when it comes out as well.
Well, and something Sean didn't mention, guys, I think he's expected to play, but Tyjae Spears is banged up, guys. I don't think he practiced today. Tyjae Spears is there. I don't know if he's going to play yet or not, but even if he does play, it's probably going to be a limited basis. So, Sean, I agree with you. That's a great play, Tony Pollard versus the Packers. I got one for you real quick, Sean. I got to sit him for you real quick for that.
I got one more stardom.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
If Kenneth Walker is out, this goes either way for Charbonnet or Kenneth Walker. Start them against Miami. If Skylar Thompson is going to be the quarterback, I don't expect much offense out of Miami and draining the clock in the second half of the second half of this game, which is going to constitute a lot of carries for Zach Charbonnet, who did get into the end zone last week. So that's my last stardom for the week. And what do we got for sit-ems? I got a couple, but I don't have a ton.
Yes, my first sit-em. Sorry, Brandon Duplessis. I think you said you have him on one of your fantasy teams, but guys, and I know he's been good this season, but James Conner versus Detroit is not a good start. Detroit is actually number 2 versus the position. They have not given up any big plays to running backs yet this year. I think Detroit's defensive line is severely underrated, one of the best in the NFL at stopping the run. I do not like James Conner this week versus Detroit, and I don't like his backup Trey Benson this week versus Detroit either. I would not be starting any running backs versus Detroit unless it's a guy like Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, one of those top 4 or 5 running backs in the NFL. I think James Conner is going to have one of those games where he averages less than 3 yards a carry this week. I don't think he's going to get you much fantasy points. The only way he could get you anything is if he somehow gets a sneak-in touchdown, but I wouldn't put money on that. I do not expect James Conner to have a good game this week, guys.
I really, really hope I'm wrong on lowering my expectations on this gentleman. I know he's going to get volume, but his backup looked pretty good last week as well. And if they're getting cooked, I'm playing, my arch rival Timmy. We're both 2-0, 1-2 in points, and I got Kyren Williams versus San Francisco. I believe is that game in LA. I can't remember if that game's in LA or San Francisco. I didn't write it down. I don't think it matters where it is. I think it's even worse if it's in San Francisco, because San Francisco at home is, they give up 209 yards. I think it was last year, or 209 yards. Didn't give up much on the ground. I don't like Kyren Williams this week. I'm going to leave him in my lineup, guys, because you never know.
Yeah, you have to.
I'm just lowering my expectations, and I got a little frowny face because everyone knows how much I hate losing to Tim Downs. so I'm hoping because he has Tyreek. I'm hoping that the Skylar Thompson takes Tyreek effect and he gets less there. So maybe they'll cancel each other out. I also have Devin Singletary. I know he had a great week last week. Nobody, if you have him again in Cleveland, don't like the matchup. And I also hate Aaron Jones this week against Houston.
Guys, my last sit-em for the running back position. This one's probably a little obvious and pretty easy to predict, but don't start any Kansas City running back against Atlanta this week. Atlanta is 5 versus the position, and nobody has an idea what's going to happen in that Kansas City the backfield right now. They just signed Kareem Hunt to the practice squad. I think eventually he will be promoted to the active roster.
Yeah.
And they also have what's his name, Sean? What's the guy that he was like a?
They got Carson Steele,
Carson Steele, and P. Ryan. I don't think they've determined what their roles exactly are going to be. I think P. Ryan's probably going to end up being the receiving back out of the backfield, but and Steele will be the early down back. But guys, I do not like any of those running backs.
Thank you, Bruce.
Atlanta. So if you're trying to find like a Hail Mary or you're trying to get cute, I would stay away from those guys in fantasy this week. Sean, do you want to move on to tight ends?
Oh, you want to do tight ends before quarterbacks?
Yeah, let's do tight ends real quick. We're going to the quarterbacks.
Here, this is another one. I'm just gonna say, not even based on matchup, because honestly, I wanted him to be a Bear. You know where I'm going when I say that. He's not. But Carolina absolutely sucks, guys. So my number one tight end, maybe the rest of the year, might be Brock Bowers. He had 9 receptions for 90 yards last week. They're gonna look to him often. The guy is a playmaker. He is everything, dude. That guy is awesome at football. Don't ever take him out of your lineup. If you do, you're a fool.
Yeah, guys, it's tough to compare right now, but right now, all the Bears fans who are screaming for Brock Bowers, they're certainly winning the battle against the Roma Dunze fans. Now, obviously, it's too early to make that decision, and the Bears offense has been a disaster as a whole. I don't think Brock Bowers will be much better in Chicago, but right now, Brock Bowers, I agree with you 100%, Sean. That guy right now, you keep him in your lineup until he proves otherwise. A stardom for me, guys, this week, a smash play. I think this is actually going to be a really good one. Is Dalton Schultz versus the Minnesota Vikings. Ooh. The Minnesota Vikings are pretty good against wide receivers, and they're pretty good against the run. They actually are one of the top defenses in the NFL this year. What they are not good at, 28 versus the position tight ends, is stopping tight ends, guys. I think Dalton Schultz is going to get better as the year goes on. I think he's a security blanket for C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud's always going to find ways to get guys the ball. He's a very good quarterback. They're going to score points. I think Dalton Schultz is going to have a huge week for the Houston Texans this week. I actually am going to put him close to 100 yards and a touchdown. So if you got Dalton Schultz on your bench and you've been worried about starting him because he's had a slow start to the season, Now is the time to put them in, guys. Sean, what do you got?
I am going to go with my next one back to the Bay, but up in LA. I'm going to take George Kittle because besides Ayuk, I know Juwan Jennings is there. Ayuk was 7 for 74 last week, and he hit a touchdown. Would have had more probably if he didn't suffer the dehydration and had to go get the IV. Dude, I love George Kittle. He's one of my favorite players in the entire NFL.
Guys, he's saying that because he's a Bears fan.
And yes, and he's a Bears fan. I love George Kittle. The last time I actually have him in our big money league, Kyle, and the last time I drafted him, he broke his leg and missed most of the year. So I'm happy he's off to a great start so far this year. No CMC, no Debo. It's Ayuk and Kittle. Let's go.
Yeah, I like Kittle a lot this week, guys. I agree with Sean 100%. Kittle to the moon. Another one I got, guys, this week. This one's a little bit sneaky. So far from what I can see from Skylar Thompson is he sucks, which means
I know where you're going.
Which means you're going to see a lot of dump offs to the running backs and tight ends. I think Jonnu Smith is going to have his best week as a Miami Dolphin this week against the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are 27th first in position. They're not good against tight ends. The linebackers struggle to cover tight ends. I think Jonnu Smith has a serviceable week for you guys in fantasy. If you got a tight end on an injured reserve, or you weren't quick enough to get one in your draft, Jonnu Smith is available on the waiver wire, and you need to plug and play tight end. Put Jonnu Smith in this week versus Seattle. I think he has a good game. I think he'll probably have somewhere around 5 catches, 50, 60 yards, hopefully touchdown for you guys. But I think that is, if you're looking for a last-minute fill-in, go pick up Jonnu Smith, guys.
I'll give you one more. I'll give you our last sneaky play of the day, and I'm going back to L.A. No Puka, no Cup. I think there's an uptick in expanded role for Colby Parkinson. Stafford's got to throw the ball to somebody. I know Demarcus Robinson's there, Tyler Johnson. They have that other kid. I don't want to mention his name right now. Don't either, Kyle. Not yet. Not until waivers go through. But he was getting part of the target share before these guys were hurt. I think he's going to be in for an expanded role. I don't know how the Niners stack up against tight ends, but someone's got to catch the ball, man. Someone's got to catch the ball. I'm with you. Same as Jonnu Smith, maybe 5 catches, 56 yards, maybe 60 yards. Someone's got to catch the ball, and I think the Niners are going to be up on LA, so they're going to be trying to pass the ball if they can pass the ball, because that is a disaster. I only have one lower expectation, and this comes out of Detroit. I know everyone had high expectations for Sam Laporta. They haven't really panned out as the season has started through a couple of weeks here. One of the biggest takeaways right now is 85% of the target share is going to Jameson Williams. And what's happened to Laporta, he's become the 4th target behind Gibbs, Brown, and Williams. Will this continue for the whole season? I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I thought that he would be more involved last week, and it turned into the St. Brown show. I don't know if St. Brown, and this could all change as far as lowering expectations if Brown is out, because I have not heard anything about him yet, if he's going to be in or out. I heard it was a possible MCL sprain, which, God, I hope not, because I really need him this week. So I hate to say it because it is Laporta, and Arizona is generally not very good against tight ends, but they just haven't looked at him, and I just looked to, I'm downplaying Kincaid against Jacksonville as well.
Yeah, I think Laporta and Kincaid, I think eventually this season, both of them will come together, but I don't expect it to be this week. My sit of the week, and I mean, absolutely, he's probably not on most people's teams anyway. He's probably not even picked up in most leagues, but just because what he did last week, a lot of people watched Mike Gesicki last week for the Cincinnati Bengals and were like, probably ran out to the waiver wire to pick him up. Guys, he is playing against Washington. As much as they give up yards to receivers, they are number 1 in fantasy football against tight ends. Their linebackers are much better at covering tight ends than their cornerbacks are wide receivers. I don't like Mike Gesicki. I never really have, to be honest with you. So like we just said, start the new Miami tight end, Jonnu Smith. Sit the old Miami tight end, Mike Gesicki, for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he's going to have. I think he could go catchless.
By the way, I just want to get this out there as a refresher. You remember when we did our preseason tight end fantasy show?
Yeah.
And my sleeper tight end of the year was Eric All Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting in the action and looking really good last week in that Cincinnati-Kansas City game. He might be coming for that job sooner rather than later.
I like Eric Hall a lot. I
Yeah.
just don't like any tight end against Washington, because if you go look at the numbers, what Washington's allowed to tight ends this year, man, as bad as Washington's defense is, they are amazing at stopping tight ends, man. I don't know what
now could it possibly be, Kyle, that they just give away receiving yards to wide receivers and no one has to throw to the tight ends? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But go look at the numbers, man. I'm telling you, it's not just first against the position in the NFL. It's first by a long shot, man. They absolutely destroy tight ends. There's just no chance. There's no space for tight ends against them at all. All right, Sean, let's hear your smash of the week for the quarterbacks.
I'm gonna stick. If I got a wide receiver that's number one smash of the week, I'm going with his quarterback. I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are gonna have a fire week. They're gonna get it together. The offense. Joe Burrow looked amazing last week, by the way, against Kansas City. All this wrist injury crap that everyone was talking, I'm not seeing it. He looked fantastic in that game. I think
and you know what?
To improve.
Not to be that guy that's like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but you know what? I feel like the Bengals should have won that game. That game was that game was the Bengals versus the Zebras and the Chiefs, guys. Some of those penalties called in that game were absolutely horrendous and were not fair to the Cincinnati Bengals at all. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened to them, but some of it was absolutely ridiculous. Sean, my start of the week at quarterback this week is going to be. Listen, man, I think he's going to be the start of the week a lot of weeks, guys.
Boy. Oh boy!
I think Baker Mayfield is actually the real.
I thought you were about to say Caleb Williams.
No, but Baker Mayfield is going against Denver, who's 18th versus position. So not as bad as some of the other guys I've had on my list to versus position, but they're 18th versus position. The reason I like Baker Mayfield so much, guys, is ultimately I know they have Patrick Surtain, but Denver's defense gives up points. They're going to do it again this week. And Baker Mayfield, people keep talking about the Houston Texans receiving core is the best, the Bears receiving core is the best, the Chiefs, guys. Go look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, man. I mean, it is absolutely amazing. They have who's the guy they just drafted, Sean? The guy who scored a touchdown week one. He looks like he's going to be
Jalen McMillan.
Jalen McMillan looks like he's going to be good. They got Mike Evans. They got Chris Godwin. They got Rashad White, who's good at catching balls out of the backfield. Now it looks like they have an actual legitimate running back in Bucky Irving, who's been pretty good running out of the backfield for them. So I think this Buccaneers offense is going to be good all year. And if they are as good as I think they're going to be, this Buccaneers team is probably going to be the team to beat for the division. Now, since I just said that, my other start of the week will be Derek Carr versus the Philadelphia.
That was my next one. Go ahead.
So Derek Carr is playing the Eagles. They've been 29th against position against quarterbacks this year. The Eagles, their secondary, like we talked about this already, guys. Secondary has not come together yet. They're still doing a lot of learning to do. A bunch of young guys on that secondary. Derek Carr has been absolutely amazing this week. The Saints have scored the fourth most points through the first 2 weeks in NFL history. I think they continue that trend this week. I'm not saying they're going to beat the Eagles, guys, but I think this game's ultimately going to end up being a shootout. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm taking the over on this game all day, and I think Derek Carr continues his good streak to start the season. Sean, you got anybody else?
I do. I am going to, and I don't know if I just picked this because their defense has looked pretty good, but I am playing you this week, and this is my starting quarterback. I'm going with CJ Stroud. I am still not a believer. I know some of the people at 4 Stars are still believers in the Minnesota Vikings. I am just not, and I think they're going to get exploited this week by Houston. I actually don't think it's going to be Nico Collins, hence why I'm starting Tank Dell against you. I think it's going to be a nice Tank Dell, CJ Stroud week. We're going to stack them, rack them, and hopefully ruin Kyle's Sunday.
Well, Sean, I got CJ Stroud in the big money league, so it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if he scores 5 touchdowns. Now, guys, I'm going to get into Sean. Do you have any more starts? Because I'm going to go to my big.
No, I like Kyler Murray versus Detroit. Detroit's secondary is abysmal, and I think Marvin Harrison, that was just an appetizer for what this guy is going to be and do for this season. That was a great connection. I still love Michael Wilson. Greg Dortch is an absolute machine, a reception machine.
Trey McBride.
And Trey McBride. I mean, there's just so much for Kyler Murray, and Detroit's secondary sucks, guys.
So far, I will say, guys, Sean said all offseason, I kept saying Sam Laporta. He's going to be the number one tight end in the NFL. I just think I like the way the Lions use tight ends. I think they're always a big part, heavily involved in the offense. But so far, guys, Sean was right. He may not be the number one fantasy tight end this far.
Now, one way to go.
But it looks like Trey McBride is probably ultimately going to end up being at the top of the list there at some point.
Hey, Dustin, CJ Stroud's
unstoppable.
Slice that defense up, bro.
You guys, I only have one quarterback start of the week, and this is a big one, guys.
Quarterback sit?
Sit, yes.
Sit.
This is sit, 100%, guys. Justin Fields. JF2 is going up against the Los Angeles Chargers, who this point in the season through 2 weeks, guys, are first versus quarterbacks in fantasy football. I think Justin Fields has a terrible game this week. I think he gives the ball away a couple times. And I think ultimately the Chargers win this game because they have one of the best coaches in the NFL. And I think they finally established their identity. They're going to stop the run, which Justin Fields uses a lot, and they're going to run the ball. And I think ultimately the Chargers are going to beat the Steelers. Justin Fields is going to have a terrible game, and Russell Wilson will probably be starting week 4. Sean, you got any sits at quarterback?
I do. It's a little iffy, but I feel like Kansas City's defense is going to shut Kirk Cousins down. Their defense is really good, man. Like, it's really good. Even losing Snead, they're still able to shut people down. I would steer away from Kirk Cousins. There's a lot of weapons there. They did get lucky against, I guess maybe not lucky against the Eagles, because the Eagles secondary is atrocious right now. And they absolutely got zero pressure on the quarterback for Jalen Carter. And what was the other guy that got from Georgia? The big
Jordan Davis.
Jordan Davis. For them to absolutely get no pressure on the Atlanta Falcons in the later half of that game. And, when in even not getting pressure through almost 3/4 of that game, Cousins still looked pretty shaky. Maybe he's still recovering from his injury. I think he'll see better days, but I think Kansas City is going to have a good day. They're going to move to 3-0, and that's where we're going. And Brandon, I did touch on Charbonnet. He is one of my smashes of the week, and James Conner was a sit of the week.
Yeah, for me personally, guys. So real quick, guys, we're just going to go over this real quick so you guys can kind of write them down if you want to take our advice here. My stardom of the week for running backs was Amir White, Jordan Mason, DeAndre Swift. Wide receivers was Rashid Shaheed, Khalil Shakir, Devontae Smith. Tight ends was Dalton Schultz and Jonnu Smith. Quarterbacks Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr. My sit-ems of the week were James Conner, any Kansas City running back, Christian Kirk, Christian Watson, Mike Gesicki, and Justin Fields. Sean, you want to go over yours real quick?
Yeah, I got Jamar Chase. Garrett Wilson, Brandon Ayuk. Also sneaky, and I forgot to mention him, and I kind of touched on him a little bit, Jamison Williams. 200-plus receiving hands already, and he's getting 85% of the snap share. We got to stop darting this guy until he falls off the planet. I lowering my expectations on Mike Evans, Jalen Waddle, and my boy, Mr. Rice, out in Kansas City. That's a very tough secondary. I still think they're going to win that game. It might be a boring defensive game because Atlanta's defense is a lot better than what people gave them credit for at the beginning of the year.
Agree 100%.
Brock Bowers at tight end. George Kittle. Sleeper of the week was Colby Parkinson. I'm lowering my expectations on 2 of the top tight ends, Laporta and Kincaid. Laporta does come with an asterisk. If there is no St. Brown, he would not be 4th in line for targets. Still do think that's going to change during the year, guys. I really do.
For both of those guys. For both of those guys, will eventually come around.
I got Joe Burrow, CJ Stroud, my boy Kyler, the Dachshund of the Desert, Murray. And I'm sitting Kirk Cousins, guys. And I mean, if you guys are desperate plays, stay away from Sam Darnold and stay away from Daniel Jones in Cleveland.
Ugh, gross. You guys, real quick, we're going to go over just real quick, but our recaps. I got the Bears winning 23-13 against the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. Sean's got the Bears winning 20-10 against the Indianapolis Colts this weekend, which both of us have them 10-point favorites. That means they are obviously going to cover the spread, since I believe the Colts are favored by 1.5 right now. If I'm not mistaken.
You know what? I'll double check. They were when I placed that bet and got them at plus 100 earlier.
So you guys already
just so you guys all know, on this show, I put a hundo on the Bears plus 100. I'm going to get
you guys.
Money.
So like we said, guys, Sean will be here later in this week to give you guys his bets for the week. But you already got one. Let's take the Bears on the money line to beat the Colts, or obviously cover the spread because we have them winning the game.
And if they don't win, I'm very sorry, guys, because I don't see a lot of ways that the Colts are going to win this football game. But
if they don't win, we're going to retire 4-star Chicago Sports. We're not going to talk about that. No, I'm just kidding.
It might be that time. Let's see. The Bears are still a 1.5 underdog. Plus 100, you can get it. The over-under is 43 on that.
And you know what, guys? The Bears should take that, and they should be insulted because the Colts have – I mean, Anthony Richardson had 2 fumbles and 3 interceptions last week. So if they are saying that the Bears can't beat that team, that is absolutely insulting. The Bears need to go in there and beat the crap out of the Colts.
Oh, I forgot my running backs. Whoops. That was Jordan Mason, Ramondre Stevenson, and Tony Pollard. And lower your expectations on Kyron Williams, Devin Singletary, Aaron Jones. And I have Joe Mixon on the list too, but he's injured. It looks like he might play. He was limited in practice. That's another reason why I'm saying lower your expectations. He that ankle, I'm actually surprised the ankle didn't break.
Yeah, you guys know what? I know it was kind of technically probably could have been considered hip drop tackle, but if you guys listened to the show last Wednesday, we said on this podcast, if the Texans run Joe Mixon as much as they did the week prior, the Bears are going to hurt him. He's going to be hurt, and he's going to feel it on Monday. And man, it happened to a T, guys. You run against this Bears team, they are unforgiving. They will make you feel the pain. If Anthony Richard runs the ball a ton this week, I would expect him to miss some time in the game as well. Sean, is there anything, Sean, you want to give a shout out to all the people watching?
Oh, yeah, we got thanks Brandon, Dustin, Bruce. We had I'm trying to find it. We had Miles Fink, the delusional Colts fan, in the house. Appreciate you,
Miles.
man.
We appreciate you, man. Thanks for watching, brother.
Absolutely. Bruce, we had Zach or Travis, in earlier. Thank you guys. Thanks to everyone that's going to watch later on. We appreciate you because without you, there is no us. Please hit that like, subscribe. If you like what we're doing here, please tell a friend. We got Dustin and Brandon coming up. They're going to drop their Bears predictions. They're going to put together an awesome show. And I believe that's going to be Thursday night. I think they said they're going to do it Thursday night after Thursday night football. So if you guys can't stay up late, catch it the next day on your way to work. Give these guys some love because they're spitting out some great knowledge. I did forget to say what's up. Thank you, Scotty. And thank you, Liz, for checking in as well.
Yeah, guys, we also real quick want to give a shout out to River Street Tavern in East Dundee, 102 North River Street. It's your place to watch Chicago sports. They have plenty of TVs, great food specials, great drink specials, great service. Our first sponsor, our second sponsor, and newest sponsor is Ideal Amusements, guys. I want to give a shout out to them. They're big in the area, in this area, Dundee, northern side of Chicago. They handle a lot of bars, jukebox, and gaming situations. So thank you very much to those guys. Those guys have been nothing but great to us since we reached out to them. Sean, is there anything else you want to say? Oh, by the way, guys, you can also catch us later on tonight, 9:00 p.m. and the Chicago Sports Podcast. We'll be going over some of the Bears' offensive line troubles, maybe something we could find, some solutions we could find to fix it. Anything else you got for these guys, Sean?
Yep. Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right. Yeah. Let's go.
Thank you guys so much. Until Monday, bear down. Bears are going to get this. We're going to come back on Monday, have a victory Monday. Maybe I'll be eating victory chicken. Who knows? We'll see. But until then, stay safe out there. Love all you guys. Thank you.
Go Bears!
Go Bears!